For the next part of our texture project, what you'll need is a piece of card, which is simply one of those food or cereal boxes, and we're going to cut a rectangle out and then divide your rectangle up into reasonably evenly spaced shapes. They don't have to be square. I've just changed the angles of mine just so that when I put my texture on each section, it's going to make an interesting pattern once I've finished. So the thing is that we're going to be doing is putting glue onto each area and then putting textured material into each space. So that's what I'm going to show you next, the options of types of materials that you can start to think about. So here I've got a set of materials that I've just gathered, and I've put them onto the paper to show you the kinds of materials that we can use. The first one is a piece of string. I've got that from a string ball and I've cut that up into strips. So the aim of each textured material is to try to use it in, let's call it, 3 different ways. So it's texture 3 ways. So the first one I would use perhaps is to put the string into my square just by laying it down, and I'll show you how that's done in a few minutes. The next thing I've done with it is to separate the string, and then the third bit I would do would be to take a pair of scissors and to chop it up into little bits, rather like the piece down here. The next bit along is just pencil shavings. So the first one is using a pencil sharpener that you should all have. The second one is using a penknife. I'm not asking you guys to use a penknife, definitely not. So you can either get me to do it when we come into class, or you can get it readily done if you have a parent who's good at just making these shavings like so. We'll just use that and we just make the little shapes. So we've got different shapes using the pencil now, which again we can add some glue to and then just add that onto the surface. Moving down here, I've got some rice, so lots of food stuff, great for adding textured surfaces. Other things you can use are sand. I don't have any at the moment, but we have some back at your school, so you can add sand. Again, we just put glue onto that, put it onto the surface, leave it to dry, and when it's dried you've got a nice rough surface. Next set along is just lentils, so we've got that, and then the last one is some herbs, so I can do that. Again, I can use also things like chopped leaves and things like that. So just within a few minutes I collected all these different materials, and then what I'm going to do is show you how you would actually prepare those and place them into your areas on your card. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to work from the inside outwards so that I don't smudge anything. So I'm just going to paint some glue into this area, and I'm going to have a think while I'm doing that about which of the textures I'm going to put into there. I think what I'll start with is the chopped string, because that's going to be quite nice. I can just sprinkle that on. So put a reasonably generous layer of glue. It has to be this kind of glue, so we'll be doing it at school. So it's PVA, not the glue sticks. It doesn't work at all. So give it not too much, but not too little. So just make sure there's a nice amount. Now, some of the textures you'll have to add the glue to the textures. You'll have to kind of mix it up. It's almost like porridge or something, and then you'll be able to apply it to this surface. So I've kept the glue only where I want the materials to stick. You'll see why in a second. Put that down, and then all I'm going to do now is start to sprinkle or place, in this case. You never know quite what's going to happen, so there is quite a bit of experimentation with this kind of thing. Just putting that in, just pressing it down. Try to keep your fingers off the glue as much as possible, because all that will happen is as soon as you've got the glue on the fingers, you will take the materials with you when you lift your finger off, because it's got something to hold on to then. If that's the case and it's getting too much, you just stop for a few seconds, go and wash your hands and then come back. So I'm just going to use the end of this penknife, but in school you'd be using the end of your scissors or something, not your penknife. There we go. So I find this little knife here quite useful at home because I can use it for sharpening pencils really quickly, and when I fold it up, it just goes in my pocket. It's not going to cut me. There we go. So all I'm going to do now is just use maybe the back of the pencil, just run it over. Again, you can make it these sort of things. There's no hard and fast rules about how you do this. You have to experiment. And some of the textures and the materials that I've shown you, well, the idea is for you to find more. Now, the key thing here now, it only sticks where I've put the glue. And that's my first area done. I'll leave that to dry. Later on we'll put some glue back over it again afterwards when it's dried so it seals it in, and then we will paint it. Okay, so the next one you'll see, I'll put something here and just show you how that works. So here you can see I'm beginning to put some lentils. So I've spread my glue on there and then I'm just dropping them in. Now what you will find is that some of them aren't glued at all, but because it's flat I can be a little bit more, I can press more than I could with a string. The string I can do a bit more now because it's got a kind of layer on it like a carpet. I'm just going to keep doing that with my lentils and press them down because they're nice and flat anyway, so they naturally go into that shape. So I'm just going to do this, and then I'm going to probably just tip it over, put it back onto the paper so they're not all over the place because it is food stuff. You don't really want that to be all over the floor. And then all I'm going to do is just drop that over a bit very carefully. It's probably going to move a bit, but I'm just going to try it. And that's going to, this kind of glue, because it's PVA, when it dries it goes clear, so that will make a nice, it will seal it in, which is what I would do with the string. I'm not going to do with the string at the moment because it's probably going to move until it's dried underneath. The lentils are a bit easier to do, and what I'm not doing is painting across. I'm just dabbing the glue on it because I want it reasonably thick, because that will then seal it in. And all I do now is just push the lentils into the area where I want them. I don't have to worry about this because I'm going to put glue there anyway in a minute, but I don't want too much glue going everywhere. That's another key thing that you should try to avoid, is having too much of anything at any one time, because you're just getting a bit of a mess. And if you feel like you're doing that, especially in class, just stop, clear things away a little bit and then reset. And that's very professional. All artists will do that because it does get a bit kind of chaotic at times and they just need to reset. If that's you, that's what you do. That's perfectly good. I'm going to turn that over so it's flat. So even that, I'm not just randomly throwing it down. There you go. So that's my next one. Now that looks a little bit like, oh, there's a mess. But once that's dried, nice and clear, and I will be coating this one as well. Okay, so that's basically what you need to do. I'm going to carry on with this and add a few more of these bits. So when you get back to school, you should see this, having been done a bit. And this video is designed for you to get yourselves, get round the idea. We'll repeat this in class, but what you should be bringing in is your cardboard box. You can talk to your friends like that and say, oh, okay, you get the cardboard box, I'll get a couple of bits of food or materials, or you just put them in a food bag, something like that you can carry them separately. Don't mix, well, you could mix them up I suppose, but then you'd only have one texture. All right, and that's it. So I'll see you in class and then we will carry on and make these.